had a lovely time with some
Okay, because
Christians in another room.
usually when your account is new, it shows a symbol in the lower right hand corner.
Oh, maybe I've already put a face picture in that. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
Go ahead.
All right, cool. Dawkins, I love your videos. There's an old.
Well,
Sorry,
stop.
I'm sorry. I love watching you on like the criticisms of you
I
with
said
Tom
stop.
Rabbit. I'm sorry.
I said stop. Do you know what stop means?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are you a homosexual?
No. Do I sound like one?
Why then? What then? Why are you giggling like a teenage girl?
Uh, sorry. I'll I'll calm down. I'm
Okay.
enjoying myself. I'm
Okay.
excited to meet you. I'm sorry.
Do you know what the word stop means?
Yes.
Okay. Is English your first language?
Yes.
Okay. Stop for a moment.
Okay.
Now, you appeal to the videos that you've seen. Now, you should know that the overwhelming majority of videos that are uploaded are purposely selected to try to be out of context or to give clickbait titles. And those people who do upload those videos only upload videos where there are verbal or attitudinal fireworks, and they do not upload the vast majority of conversations that remain cordial and cerebral.
Yes, and I hope to join on Clubhouse and see more of those conversations instead of just the highlights on YouTube. But I do enjoy that content.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm glad that you do, because it does include some of the biblical type of presuppositional reasoning, but they are selected to be, in the broad sense of things, out of context. So
yeah. Great. I had one thing I wanted to talk about, and it's an argument that's not very much used by presups anymore. People used to say a lot, how do you account for that? And I feel the tone of this, if you couldn't answer it, it was meant to be like it contradicts your worldview. But I think a further argument would be needed for that. I think it's because there are lots of things I can't account for. There's interesting chemistry happening in space that astronomers tell me about, how alcohol forms in clouds out there. I can't account for how that happens, but I don't think that contradicts anything in my worldview. So I think, how can you account for that? I don't know. Isn't a good. Go on. Sorry.
Okay, no.
No, I made my point. That's it.
Okay, well, actually, it is a good response, because we're not asking for all of the intricacies. What we're just saying is, fundamentally, at a fundamental level, why is anything what it is can be or cannot be? Is there a fundamental reason why that is? That's the issue.
I see. It's not the how can you count? It's like the how can you count for that with an infinite chain back to the like what's the original thing?
Let me give you an example. Okay.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I could not tell you the intricacies of my phone that I'm holding in my hand right now. I could give you a vague generalization that it involves an array of electronics.
Yeah.
And radio signals, okay, things like that.
Yep, this is just what I meant with the space cloud.
But at a fundamental worldview level, I could say the reason why this phone can be, or cannot be, will be by virtue that the mind of God is what is absolute, eternal, and ultimate. And anything else that exists, which would include this cell phone, depends upon the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God for its actuality and its continuing. That's the nature of the question. This is not a gotcha question about the intricacies of certain mechanical, chemical, or physics interactions. We're asking, are we in a world, when I ask how do you account for that, we're asking, are we in a world where God is, and God has revealed himself through creation, and that everything in the world, to whatever degree of understanding that we have about it, it is what it is, can be and cannot be, is by virtue of the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God. And if not, then the only alternative then is a world of chaos and chance, where nothing is identifiable or defensible as to why anything is, can be, or cannot be. Now, if somebody has a third, let me finish. If somebody has a third alternative, they can be forthcoming, but they never are. So go ahead, sir.
Thanks. So I've always interpreted how do you account for that as sort of a nearby level explanation. Like, can you explain a few steps before that? But it sounds like you're pushing it back to what is the ultimate explanation of almost everything. It's like the
Right.
Agrippa's
That's because
dilemma.
we're
Is
having.
the infinite
That's
regress, or is
because.
there a foundation? And you're asking for the
That is
foundation?
because. That is because these issues are worldview disputes, sir.
It might be getting a bit
These.
above my pay grade level. I think I just wanted to make the point that it needs a bit of an extra argument rather than just I can't account for this. It needs that this conflicts with your worldview. Is that sort of clear?
Okay. What we are having here on the issue of the existence of God, not God, or whether the Bible is the Word of God or Jesus Christ rose again from the dead, these are not mere disputes about facts or history. What this will ultimately come down is a clash of worldviews. That is the essential problem here.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for your time, Darth. I hope to talk to you again.
Before you go, what is your worldview?
Oh, I'm an agnostic atheist. I love science and philosophy.
Can you tell me when you use the word atheist in one sentence, what is the definition of atheist?
Right, I'm using the colloquial atheist definition, which is does not believe in a god. But I'm happy to say in a philosophical context, I'm not an atheist.
So an atheist, when you use it, means an absence of belief in God
A
without the
person.
denial.
Yeah.
May I finish, please?
Sorry.
So when you use the word atheist, it means the absence of a positive belief in God without the denial thereof. Is that correct?
Almost, I interjected there to say a person because often people use that to say, "Oh, a rock counts as an atheist." Then, but I'm saying a person who
is a mental state
yeah.
where you merely are absence of positive belief in God and absent the denial of God.
Yes, I would call that a colloquial definition of someone who is both an atheist and a agnostic.
Right. So when you use the word agnostic,
Yeah.
does that mean an absence of an affirmation and an absence of an affirmation and an absence of denial of God?
Yes, and both towards the level of knowledge.
So then saying agnostic atheist is redundant.
Agnostic would say that I don't know
No,
either
sir.
way.
No, sir. That's an
So,
internet cliche, and I will tell you
oh
why.
well, that I'm saying we're
No,
explaining the colloquial
stop.
definition. Sorry.
Stop,
All right.
sir. Stop,
No.
sir.
Yeah, it's all
T.H.
yours.
Huxley, T.H. Huxley, who invented the term, did not restrict the term to only knowledge. If you go to the Wikipedia article on agnosticism, it directly quotes T.H. Huxley, where T.H. Huxley says, and I will quote him, not verbatim, but I'll give you the gist of it. He says, "A man will not claim to know or to believe something that for which he doesn't have sufficient evidentiary support." Agnosticism is not restricted to knowledge claims. The reason why interweb atheists are attempting to co-opt the word, all right, is so that they can, deploy these ad hoc definitions that don't bear any resemblance to reference works in regular dictionaries and encyclopedias or philosophical works. So to call yourself an agnostic atheist is just simply to regurgitate internet claptrap definitions that bear no resemblance to any reference works.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think that if words are used enough, they sort of become official and will get incorporated to the dictionary.
In the English speaking world, okay, throughout our planet, in the English speaking world, is there one single word that is used uniformly to indicate those who deny the existence of God? Does such a word exist?
Uniformly, a strong
Is
atheist? A strong atheist?
that is wide?
Oh,
Is there a
one
single
single
word
word.
that is used widely in the English
Oh,
language to
uh,
designate somebody who denies the existence of God?
yes, you just switched from uniformly to
What
widely,
what
and
is
now I will
okay,
grant you absolutely
whatever,
atheist. Atheist is the
whatever.
word.
Oh, okay. So you are purposely using
Using a
a
colloquial.
word. Okay, well, excuse me.
I'm
Why are
sorry.
you
Go on. I'm
over-talking
sorry.
me?
I'll.
You are purposely using a word in a non-standard way. And do you know why you're doing that? I'll tell you why you're doing that. Is you're doing it for the same reason that other atheists who wear the label atheist, you want to redefine atheism as not being propositional in nature regarding worldview schemes, but rather that it is not propositional in that sense, but that it is simply saying that you have a certain mental state that is absent a belief. Such a definition is adopted not because it's a standard definition in English, but it's designed so that you can insulate yourself from defending what you actually believe. If you really were sincere that you neither affirm nor deny the existence of God, that you have an absence of a positive belief in God and an absence of a belief in God's denial, there's a perfectly good English word that is used uniformly throughout the world. It's called agnostic. Okay?
Okay. Can I tell you a really short story? Some Mormons came to my door and they asked if I believe in God, and I was wondering whether I should say I'm agnostic or atheist. And I said, well, you probably consider me agnostic, but there might be things you believe about God which contradict the evidence I'm familiar with. In which case, I'd be atheist. Like if you're a young Earth creationist, I believe the fossils
No,
prove evolution, so that would make me an
That's
atheist.
local
Sorry.
atheism.
Yeah, yeah,
listen to
local.
me, sir, listen to me.
Yep.
Atheism in the English language, reflected uniformly in reference works, is the denial of all gods. The fact that a couple of dictionaries have as a secondary or a third definition the lack of belief doesn't extricate atheists from the standard definition of atheism. Because to say that atheism is a lack of belief is ambiguous. It is non-informative. The reason why you atheists are doing this is because you want to be called atheists, because you know what it uniformly is used in the
No,
English language, but you
Darth.
want to redefine it. Okay? You want to insulate yourself from having to defend what you really believe.
All right,
Because
Darth,
if your
please.
position truly wasn't, let me finish. If your position truly did not constitute the denial of God, you would just say, I'm agnostic. Because agnosticism is a claim, it's a claim to be neutral. Atheism in the standard reference works across the board, both in non-philosophical and philosophical reference sources, refers to is the negation of theism. Theism is defined as propositional, not simply a statement of one's personal psychology or mental state.
No, that if it was just referring to one's mental psychology, that would make it trivially true.
Then that would make both atheism and theism true, because there are people who have those states, and that would be problematic.
Well, they
The
would
fact of the
exist.
matter is,
I don't think
well, here's the
that
real here's
exist.
the here's the real issue. Here's the real issue. Okay, your position is you do not affirm the existence of God. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You want to stake out a position through vocabulary and words to insulate yourself that your non-affirmation constitutes the denial thereof. And
I'd
I
like
will
I'd
show
like to
you,
clarify about that.
okay, you can in a second. I'm going to show you by asking you one simple question that what you do affirm logically entails and commits you to the denial of God, right? But you don't want to characterize your position as the denial of God. So I'll ask you one question, okay? When you do invoke facts, do you positively reference the necessity of God as the ultimate precondition of said facts?
No, not consciously at all.
Okay, so you are invoking facts that cannot logically coexist with God. The kind of facts that you are affirming.
Maybe with your version of God?
No,
Sorry.
sir. No, sir. We're not doing a bait and switch here. Okay.
Sorry.
When you invoke facts the way you do, you are invoking facts without referencing the necessity of God. Now, for the sake of discussion, we had this earlier, God is going to be defined as an eternal mind who is the necessary precondition of all things that are not himself. It's a definition. I am not asking you to affirm the actuality of God, but God is defined as the necessary precondition. Do you accept that definition?
Could you just repeat it, please?
God is defined as an eternal mind, supreme being who is the creator of all things that are not himself. And we say that God is the necessary precondition of all things that are not himself. Okay? It's a definition. It's completely uncontroversial, right? Why do I hear noise in the background?
I was just typing that out. I'm sorry.
Now, God is defined as being necessary. Okay? God cannot be affirmed to exist if he's not necessary. Now, when somebody says God is not necessary, directly or indirectly, explicitly or implicitly, the statement God is not necessary is the equivalent of saying God does not exist. Do you understand that?
Yes, it really reminds me of the reverse ontological argument where you say that it's possible that God doesn't exist and he doesn't exist in any world.
Now, to say explicitly or implicitly God is not necessary is to entail that God does not exist. Your position is facts can be invoked as actual without God being necessary.
So if what I do is possible, God doesn't exist?
You're not focusing, sir. You're trying to pull me into what you previously stated.
Oh.
If you say directly or indirectly, God is not necessary, explicitly or implicitly, this entails the denial of God. Are we clear on that point?
Right, so if I describe anything in the world around me without referencing God, that disproves God? That entails God does not exist?
If you invoke any proposition or fact that is true, that is actual, that is invoked without referencing the necessity of God, that entails either the direct or indirect denial of God.
Okay, well, for your version of God, I will say I am an atheist in the proper sense.
Okay, fine. So your position then is that God does not exist.
Yes, because I seem to be able to describe things around me without referencing God.
Now, so you can't pull, oh, I'm shifting the burden of proof. I'm going to make a positive case for the existence of God.
Yeah, this is the word I wanted to clarify before. When I say I'm agnostic, I say there are versions of God I'm open to that I haven't ruled out yet.
No,
but there are some that I have ruled out yet.
Sir, listen.
And I am ruling out yours because of what you said.
We're talking about the concept of God, where God is the creator of all things that are not himself, but is not limited to that. We're not giving an exhaustive elucidation of God. Okay? So the point is, you're an atheist and I'm an atheist. Am I limited to a nondescript theism? No, I'm not. I hold strictly to Christian theism, but I am nonetheless a theist. Now, I'm going to give you a positive case for the existence of God, so you cannot claim the old worn cliche that I'm shifting the burden of proof.
I'm just. Am I allowed to call myself a local atheist for a lot of gods, including your God, but not necessarily a global atheist?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
No. Okay.
Global and local atheism. I understand using these descriptors because they have some usage, but here's the problem. You can be a local atheist in the sense where a local atheist will deny a specific God presented. But then the question comes in is, what creator God then do they affirm? And if they don't affirm it, then they are a global atheist.
Oh, not affirming any God makes you a global atheist. I thought you said global atheist was like affirming there are no gods.
Not affirming the existence of God upon examination entails that you're a global atheist.
No, that was only for your particular model of God.
Oh, no, sir. Listen to me carefully.
Okay.
I can defend that easily.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, so I'm going to make a positive case for God so that when you respond, you're not going to have the luxury of saying, I'm shifting the burden of proof. Okay? So God exists because God has taken the initiative to disclose his existence through the entirety of creation, starting with our self-consciousness, our immediate sense perception, and also coming into contact with everything else in the world. Of those things that I just mentioned, okay, they are revelatory from and to God by his purpose. Otherwise, they could not be invoked to be anything at all. Okay? So, everything, including your toenails, the rocks on the side of the road, and your self-consciousness will either be in a dichotomous situation, either be indicative and revelatory to and from God because he purposed it, or not. So what we have here is a true dichotomy. In the case that it is revelatory of God, then things will be what they are, originating from and being sustained by the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God. So God in this scenario will be the absolute in terms of his essential properties as to why anything is, can be, and cannot be. The only alternative that you're going to have then is that the putative facts are not revelatory, indicative to and from God by his purpose. And then all you would have are brute facts, which would mean that they are no facts at all, because there is no identifiable rhyme or reason as to what or why they are. There is no absolute in order for them to derive and depend upon in terms of their ontology. And if there is no basis for their ontology, there is no basis for their intelligibility whatsoever. So the case for God is simply this. God has revealed himself. You know it and I know it. But you don't want there to be a God, so you would rather opt for chaos, right? Which is nothing means anything anyway. There's no rhyme or reason why anything is, but you want to pretend otherwise. Okay? Now, I've made a positive case for God's existence through creation. He's revealed it through creation, through human history, ultimately through the person of Jesus Christ. Now, simple question. Do you accept the case that I have presented?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, now, so have I not laid out a positive case for the existence of God?
Yes. Shall we criticize it?
Okay, so yeah, you're free to do so, but you no longer now have the luxury of saying that I'm shifting the burden of proof, correct?
No, that's fair. That you've presented an argument, and if I can't
now,
find,
your non-acceptance constitutes an outright denial.
No, I have to assess it and see if it works. It's pretty complicated. I've written it all down, but I got to think through it.
I've just explained to you that unless
Mm.
every putative fact
Yeah.
is to be accepted and recognized as being revelational
Yep.
to and
Then it,
from God, indicative of God by his purpose, meaning therefore that I'm looking at a coffee mug on my table right now, that
yeah.
it is what it is because it is revelatory of the absolute, the ultimate.
Right.
And
That's it.
without which,
Why should I believe that?
okay, you don't have any other choice, because if the object in question is not indicative of and revelatory of the absolute, then there is no object to invoke, because then you are going to have to explain, how does the object possess identity and identity over time? There's nothing identifiable that is.
I
There's
mean, there
nothing
are a lot of theories
identifiable.
about what constitutes identity over time. There are different ideas.
Look,
Sir,
if I can
if
interject
you're going
something
to
real
invoke
quick.
the mug on the table, just give me a second, Tomasz. If you're going to invoke the mug on the table, or any other object for that matter, okay, you're going to be implicitly including identity and identity over time, correct?
Right, I'm going to assume that by the mug, you know that I mean all of the ceramic that's in that shape, yeah.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, okay? The point is this: either the object in question will be absolute within itself or not, okay? Now, the absolute will require no external justification, or excuse me, contextual frame of reference for what and why it is. But if something is not deemed to be absolute, then it cannot explain itself, and it will therefore be derivative. Okay? Now, you don't.
I mean,
I'm saying to you now is this. What I'm
yeah.
trying to explain to you now is this.
Yeah.
Once you reject that God is the metaphysical absolute, from which all non-absolute things derive and depend, okay? When you start to invoke putative facts, I'm going to ask you, how do they possess actuality? Are they absolute within themselves? And if they're not, then I want to know, what is absolute that gives these things actuality? What imposes identity and identity over time if they are not absolute within themselves?
Well, I think identity and identity over time are sort of subjective things, but mysterious things. They might be real things, but
Sir, listen to me
one
carefully.
more.
You
Go on.
don't live this way. Stop with this bull crap. You don't live this way. I wasn't born yesterday. You believe that certain things possess identity over time, and that it is more than just a subjective notion. You don't live this way, sir. Now, I'm going to
No,
ask you a
I
question.
don't use words that way, but language is.
Sir, you don't live this way. Now, I'm going to
I
ask
don't
you a
talk that
simple
way, but
question.
that's because it's deeply ingrained into
I'm
language to treat
going,
things as objects.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you have intelligibility for any object or entity in a God-free world?
I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I can label things as objects. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in order to derive intelligibility, then something must possess actuality. You can't separate the two. Intelligibility depends upon the
I believe in reality.
Intelligibility for an entity in question derives and depends upon its nature of being, its ontology. Now, the object or entity in question will either to be reckoned to be absolute, unconditionally absolute and non-derivative in and of itself, or in virtue of what is absolute. If you choose the poison pill of saying, I don't accept that anything is absolute, then you're not going to be able to invoke anything that possesses identity or identity over time.
How, when we look at something, are we meant to tell if it's absolute or not?
Okay. How are we meant? Because in the
I mean,
world around
what's
you,
an effective method? What's an effective
in
method?
in the world around you, do you see that things come into existence and go out of existence?
See matter rearranging, and I label some
Right,
of those
right, right,
arrangements as objects,
right.
and
Now,
those come into and
the
out of
point,
existence.
the point is this: the issue comes down to this: you do not accept that the absolute, that which is ultimate, from which all things depend and derive, is the mind of God, and that He has revealed Himself through creation. You do not accept that.
Yes,
Now,
I'm open to an infinite regress or an absolute
no,
that's not God.
sir, listen to me. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, you're going to have to explain to me the following question. What is it fundamentally and foundationally, in the grand scheme of things, in your model of reality, what is it that singularly and foundationally dictates all instances of what is, can be, and cannot be? What is it? Since it's not God, what is it?
I think things are possible and impossible for different reasons. There are like mathematical
Okay,
causes for things being
that's not,
impossible and logical
listen,
reasons, and there's
stop
not
right
one
there.
thing. In fact, I would say
Man,
that
you're
this
just
proves your
talking
God doesn't
around the
exist.
issue.
I would say this disproves your God, sorry.
Wow. Have you had too much coffee this morning?
No.
Okay, listen to
I
me.
was agnostic before, now I'm atheist towards your
And
God
you are
because...
talking around the issue.
Are
Sorry.
you on mesh? Are you on
No,
mesh?
no, sir.
Then calm down.
All right, take the stage, I'm sorry.
Now, you didn't answer my question. You responded, but it was not an answer. Is there something that is singular, absolute within itself in terms of its essential properties, ultimate, from which all things that are not itself dictates any instance of what is, can be, or cannot be?
Right. My answer is definitely not, and also I identify it. That's your God, isn't it?
Okay, so there's nothing that is identifiable and defensible that is ultimate.
It's
So what you
provably
have,
not. Sorry, go on.
listen. You are in a metaphysical quagmire that you are unaware of right now, and I'm going to unpack it for you.
Do you think everything is impossible for the same reason?
Have you noticed how many times you're cutting me off?
I'm very sorry. I'll be quiet. I'm sorry.
When you choose to reject that everything that you come into contact with, including your self-consciousness, is indicative of, revelatory to, and from God because He purposed that, then all you are left with is an array of putative facts, okay, that exist, that are invoked as is, without reference to the necessity of God. And you agree to that. Now,
Yes.
here's the problem now. The category that these entities or facts are in, you categorically reject and deny that they are to be categorized as creaturely, that they are revelatory of God. Okay?
I'm not
That's
sure what that
okay.
means, but yeah, I'll go with
To
it.
be creaturely means that something exists derivationally from God, who is ultimate and absolute, and that they are revelatory and indicative of God by His purpose. That's what it means to be creaturely.
Then
You
definitely. Yep,
categorically
sure.
reject that. Now,
Yep.
so now what that means now is that the objects that you invoke by your mouth or your mind, the entities that you invoke, they are not categorized as creaturely. So there's only one other category that they will
No,
be invoked under. And
couldn't
that
I be agnostic
category,
about this?
no. And I will explain to you why you can't.
Okay.
Okay? So the category that your facts will be invoked in is that they are brute. A brute fact is stipulated as something that exists to be without any ultimate designation as to what or why it is. So the facts that you invoke, do they have an ultimate grounding as to what or why they are. That is identifiable and defensible.
No, they're not brute either. But they're contingent.
No,
but
stop,
I can't trace them back
stop,
infinitely.
Stop, sir, stop.
Yep.
I'm giving you a true dichotomous situation.
Yeah,
A
I thought
brute fact is the opposite of a creaturely fact. A creaturely fact is a fact.
No, you said a creaturely fact was created by God.
Listen to me.
Sorry.
You keep on cutting me off,
I'm
and
sorry.
you're going into bickering mode.
I'm sorry.
Right? Now, because I don't think that you're purposely bickering to troll, I think you're just doing it out of habit. I'm not getting agitated with you because I don't think you're using it.
Impulsive, though.
He is impulsive, but I don't.
It's my first time on Clubhouse.
That's right. I'm not getting the vibe, and I want other people on the panel to, if you agree or disagree with me, that's fine. I'm not getting the vibe that he's using it as a strategery to obfuscate. I think he's just okay.
I interjected with Luke earlier, and he was pretty cordial. I didn't have any problems with him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darth. Thank you.
See, I'm not. You see, you've been talking over me, but I don't think that you're purposely trying to be a passive-aggressive troll, okay, and undermine the interaction, okay? I'll just ask you, please try to minimize the crosstalk, and I will try to do that likewise. Now, I'm presenting to you a dichotomous situation. If you want to attempt to refute it, then so be it. The dichotomous situation is that a fact will either be creaturely or not creaturely. Do you accept that dichotomy?
Yes, that sounds like a valid dichotomy to me. Yeah.
Okay. Now, a something that is not creaturely will be brute, unless, of course, and by brute means it is invoked to be without any identifiable or defensible ultimate reason as to why it exists. Otherwise, you're going to have to tell me what is ultimate that dictates any instance of what is, can be, or cannot be.
That's interesting. So if I just believe in like a long chain of contingent things and I don't know what comes before, it still counts as brute under the way you just defined it, right?
A infinite regress of contingency. Listen to me.
Yep.
An infinite regress of contingent events is incoherent upon examination, and an assertion, a propositional assertion, is not defensible because that wouldn't even explain why the entire set exists.
I think that if every member of a set is explained, then the whole set is explained.
No, it doesn't. Now, here's the problem with the
might be a bit advanced set theory for me.
In an infinite regress, there is nothing of a primary status to result in a secondary state. Okay? In an infinite regress, all instances are of a second order, but there's no primary state of which second order events to arise. So an infinite regress is incoherent.
Why does there need to be a primary state instead of just a whole list of these secondary states?
Because definitionally, something is secondary if and only if there's something of a primary status. A secondary order. Let me explain something to you. Suppose you're in line going to the movies. Okay, you could be 8th in line, but that's still of a secondary order because you're not primary. Okay, anything that is not in a primary position is of a second order class, whether you're 5th, 6th, or 7th. Okay? Now, secondary order things can only ontologically exist by virtue they derive of something of a primary status. No primary status, you don't listen to me. Yeah. Listen to me. Can you have the number 2 count if there's not a number 1?
The number 2 count. You can't count incrementally up to 2 without 1.
Can something be second if something's not number 1?
No.
Okay, there you go. You just agreed with me.
Yeah, I feel that little bit was clear, but I really feel like what you were saying before involved a whole lot of theories of time and things, metaphysics that I haven't even gotten into a
theory of time, sir.
Okay.
The point is this: I just showed you why the advocacy of an infinite regress is not coherent. Number two, how could you even know that? On what grounds do you assert an infinite regress? Where'd you get that from?
I'm just saying I'm open to the possibility of it. I'm not
No. Well,
convinced it's impossible.
I'm not interested in your theorizing. Okay, you are outright denying God as creator.
Because there are other possibilities. I'm denying he must be created.
No, sir, listen to me. You don't have the luxury with that type of language, because what is the ground of all existence is not within the realm of possible or not possible. Okay? Now, the point is this: is your position is that God is not. Okay? Now, I want you to explain to me how the not God world is true. I've already laid out a positive case for God's existence, and you're rejecting it. It is incumbent upon you to now lay out a case for your God denialism.
Strange Darth, I really feel like you just laid out the case for why your God is impossible.
Okay, it's your turn, sir, now. I made a case for the existence of God.
Oh, now, okay. All right, I'll make a case against it. You
are rejecting the presentation that I have made, which constitutes the affirmation of the not God world. So you now need to make a positive case for the not God world.
Right. All right. When you're defining God like this, okay, I'm just going to ignore that there are other versions of God which I would consider God, even the Christian God which I would consider God. It's just this sort of grounding of reality. All right. It's revelatory, right? Everyone would know about it.
You're not making yourself clear. Are you now going to make a case for the not God world?
Yeah. I just want to check that it's a revelatory God and everyone would know about it if it exists.
Okay.
Is that right?
In either you will take the case,
because I've got that in my notes from what you said earlier.
Are you going to let me finish?
Sorry.
Either you're going to opt that God is, by virtue that God has revealed himself through creation and through human history, or not. Okay? I've laid out a case as to why you should accept that God is, by virtue that he has revealed himself. You have rejected that.
Yes.
It is now your turn to present your position, which is the rejection of my view, which constitutes the denial thereof, which is the not God world. So the not God world is true because...
Okay, I've got two rebuttals to your argument the God world is true. And one was that your God would be revelatory, as I just explained, and I would know about it, and I don't know about it. I can't prove that one to you, but it shows to me that your God doesn't exist. I've got a second argument, which is that your God is... Sorry, all right, go on.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You just stated that... I'm gonna put it into my words, and you correct me if you disagree.
Yep.
You've just stated that all the facts you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God, that they are not indeed revelatory of God. Now,
as far as I'm aware, and I would be aware of that if your God exists.
Okay, so you're telling me then that all facts that you're acquainted with are not revelatory of God, right?
They don't revelatory to me, and I would get that revelation if your God exists.
Okay, so you are now adopting the not God world.
Yeah, I just proved it.
No, you're not understanding. Okay, make your case that God does not exist.
If agnostics exist, your God doesn't exist. I'm agnostic, therefore your God doesn't exist.
Yeah, how many times do you think I've heard that before?
I made it up, but yeah, probably a lot. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this many times. Now, here's the
problem. Can I give you my second argument against your thing?
No, we're going to deal with first things first.
Sure, yeah. Good.
So write down what your second argument is, so you don't forget, and then we'll go back to it. Okay? Because I want to be fair with you. You're saying is God doesn't exist because people claim they don't know God exists. Okay?
Now, no, because I know that I don't know God exists.
Okay, so that what you just stated is equivalent to saying all the facts that you are acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God.
In any way that's clear to me, yeah, they don't.
Right. Now,
they don't reveal themselves as necessitating God for me.
How did you determine that?
Because there's just no sign of God to me, and there would be if God exists.
You're repeating the same claim in different words.
Oh, I would recognize it, and I'm not recognizing it.
What? Okay. Then no, sir. No, you're confusing two different things. Okay. You're confusing your mental state with the propositional content that facts do not ultimately indicate God, where facts stand in causal relations to and from God. Now, do you know what all facts ultimately derive from that are not God?
No, I only know local facts.
Then how did you determine that they cannot and do not stand in causal relations to God?
Because you told me that if they do, I would know about it.
Well, my position is that you do know about it, and that you're claiming that you don't is a suppression of the truth and unrighteousness, and I can show that by the irrationality of your case. Now, your position is facts do not reveal God, right?
Well, as far as I can see.
What do facts ultimately indicate?
I don't know. They indicate a few facts before them. You can trace back time a bit, but you can't trace back time infinitely, as far as I know.
Okay, so then you have excluded God.
No. Oh, your version of God, which I would know about, yes.
No, sir, please stop with the childishness here, okay?
I'm sorry.
You are excluding God as creator as the ultimate primary, the metaphysical primary. That God as the metaphysical primary is the ultimate reason why you have excluded God. Now, there's only two ways that you can respond to this, okay? You can either, in order to sustain that facts do not stand in causal relations to God, is to tell me what facts ultimately derive from, or that the individual facts, that there is no ultimate source for each individual thing. Those are your only two options.
Well, I can tell you some facts, and then you can say, "Oh, if they don't."
Did you understand?
It would be the second option. It would be the second option. Yes, yes. But I couldn't identify.
Okay, hold on a second.
Go on.
So you're opting for the second option, is that God does not exist because God, being classified as ultimate, the ultimate precondition, cannot and does not exist because there is indeed nothing that is ultimate.
I'm not sure that follows. I'm
no,
open
sir,
to being
that's what
something that's not God that is ultimate.
Sir, listen, you got to focus.
Okay? All right, hold on. Sorry, how did you disprove something that's not God that is ultimate?
You know what? People say I'm not a patient man. I think I'm revealing to people how patient I am with you, with your lack of focus.
I'm really sorry, Darth. I'll be quiet.
You keep on being impulsive. Stop doing it, man. You've been doing it all conversation.
You see, if I had gotten even a whiff that you're doing this deliberately, I would have kicked you a long time ago. But I don't think you are. Okay, I think that there's a certain amount of sincerity in you. Right now, in order for you to reject and deny God, remember, God is classified as the ultimate. All right, definitionally. When you reject, and by virtue of that, it constitutes the denial thereof, the only way that you can sustain that is either to tell me what is ultimate, or make a case that nothing can be ultimate, thereby excluding God. Which of those two options do you choose?
Either God is ultimate or nothing can be ultimate?
No, God is categorically the ultimate, from which everything derives and depends.
So if there's an ultimate, it's just God. And it doesn't matter if it's intelligent or anything. Sorry? Go on.
Listen.
Yeah.
God is classified, God is categorized as the ultimate. To be ultimate is to be the ground of all being, that which is self-contained, unconditionally absolute in terms of essential properties, and everything else that is not that derives and depends upon it. Now, your position is God is not, which means God is not ultimate. So the only way that you can tell me that God is not ultimate is you have one of two options, as I see it.
I can offer you hypotheses.
May I finish, please?
Sorry.
You only have two options, and that's to tell me what is ultimate, that is not God, or you can make a case that nothing is ultimate. Which of those two options do you choose?
I think both are plausible, and I don't know what the answer is.
No, so you have no defense for either one. Therefore, you have no ground. Okay. Do you have a defense for either one?
I think they're logically possible, and metaphysics is.
I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you if it's logically possible. What I said to you is, do you have a defense for either one?
For either one being true? No, I'm like agnostic.
Okay,
I think it's beyond the evidence.
Then you have no grounds to affirm the not God world.
Right. Well, no. Until you tell me things like I would know about it if he exists.
Sir, you're not focusing.
Yeah.
My position is the God world. I have made a case. Okay. I have made a case for the God world. You have categorically rejected it, and by rejection, by virtue of that, you are denying it. Your position, explicitly or implicitly, is the affirmation of the not God world. You have not made a case for the not God world. So therefore, your invocation of the not God world as the negator for the God world is purely arbitrary, without reason.
I made one case, but you have rebutted it. Could you acknowledge that?
What was the case that? Okay, one more time. Are you talking about the agnostic argument?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but we unpacked that. The agnostic argument is this, right? Is that I would know about it, and since I don't know about it, therefore God doesn't exist. But here's the problem: you haven't made a case for you knowing that you don't know that God exists. To say that you don't know, okay, is it your position that you don't know that God exists?
Yes.
Okay, that is the equivalent of saying all the facts that you are acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God.
As far as I know, yes. It's got to be as far as I know. It could be that your worldview is true, and
your position is facts do not necessitate referencing God.
No, as far as I know, epistemically, your worldview could be true, and they might necessitate. Wow, God might be the ultimate. Sorry.
Wow. Have you had too much caffeine today?
Yeah, I did have a coffee late.
Yeah. Your position is facts do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. Now, you're going to have to make a defense of that proposition. Now, either you're going to have to tell me what is ultimate that provides for facts, or that there is no ultimate as a defeater for that facts necessitate referencing God. Otherwise, your stipulation that facts don't necessitate referencing the necessity of God is arbitrary. Is it arbitrary, sir?
No, I think I can give a defense.
Good.
Here.
Then your defense is one of two options. Either you're going to have to tell me what is ultimate, that all facts derive and depend upon, therefore facts don't necessitate God, or that nothing is ultimate, thereby excluding God as the necessary reference point. So which of those two options do you choose?
No. I think the second half of the second option is enough.
Which of those two do you choose?
I'm going to choose the second option, but without affirming the first half of it.
You're asserting that nothing is ultimate then?
As far as I know.
No, sir, you need to stop with the qualifiers because it's unimportant.
Well, I'm not I'm not asserting. Then no. Then the answer is no. I could. When I say as far as I know, it's almost a yes.
If you don't.
I'm sorry. All right. Sorry.
I'm really beginning to lose patience with you.
I know. Sorry,
You said, as far as I know, do you know that nothing is ultimate?
No, I do not.
Then you can't assert that, can you? Unless you want to assert it arbitrarily.
Right, I do not assert nothing is ultimate. I'm open to the possibility of it.
Okay. Then you have now destroyed your own position.
Why is that?
Wow, you really have problems focusing. Okay?
Your
position is that the not God world is true. You have made a subclaim saying that if it was true, you would know God exists, and since you don't know that God exists, therefore God is not true. But now you have to make a case that you don't know God exists, which means sustaining that all the facts that you are acquainted with don't necessitate referencing the necessity of God. The only way that you can sustain that is by telling me what is ultimate that's not God, or by defending that nothing is ultimate. You told me.
No. That's the false dichotomy.
All right.
Go on. Sorry. Go on.
Thank you very much for your time. Okay. He was not removed because he was disagreeing. He's just going a dog chasing his tail with the same bickering, the same. Now I believe it was semi-purposeful, not focusing. I made it entirely clear to him over and over and over again. Okay.
He's way too impulsive, man. That was annoying.
He was. Yeah. I wasn't being unfair. I think I was very long-suffering with him, monumentally patient with his impulsiveness, and I made it very clear that he only has two options. He agreed to those two options, that either he has to declare what is ultimate or that nothing is ultimate in order to sustain that he doesn't know that God exists. And he didn't defend either one.
Can I
say something real quick? He was getting impulsive and defensive about everything. He would try to preempt answers to keep his position from being falsified.
Yeah, he did say something earlier about basically if anything he assumes is possible apart from God, he'll accept that automatically. So it seemed to me like it was just a matter of he just simply doesn't want God to exist. Therefore, if there's any possibility to the contrary, he'll go for it, right?
Yep, I agree with that. He was talking about that he would accept an infinite regress or an ultimate without God.
His whole MO was just fast talking, interrupting, constantly rabbit trailing, and chasing his tail with the same line of reasoning that I would meticulously respond to. Okay? He's going to have to tell me, right, when he says, well, I know God doesn't exist because if he did exist, then he would have made me to know blah, blah, blah. I said, good, tell me how you know God doesn't exist. The only way you can tell me you don't know that God exists is you're going to have to tell me what is ultimate in order to exclude God, or you're going to have to tell me that there's nothing ultimate and make a case for that. He didn't defend either one, nor did he provide a third option to avoid those two options. He conceded that he only had two options, yet he did not defend either option. Therefore, his position is arbitrary.
That was very painful to watch and listen to.
Why is he back up here again?
Darth, I don't agree that not believing in God means I have to choose one of those two options.
Sir, I've gone over this several times with you. You only have two options in order to defend your position that God doesn't exist because you don't know that he exists. Now, your first option is to tell me what is ultimate, thereby excluding God, that the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing God, or you can tell me how it is that nothing is ultimate. You have to pick one of those two options to defend. Which one do you choose?
I think I can prove that there's a third option I can take.
Then you contradicted what you said previously, that you accepted that you only have two options.
Maybe I was wrong, but
what's the third option, sir?
sorry. Can you repeat it?
Yeah,
so
you have two options. If you're
no,
going to negate God,
yes,
if you're
yes, yeah.
going to negate God,
If I'm going to say I don't believe in God,
can you stop over talking?
I'm sorry.
You were kicked for it. If you're going to negate God and adopt a not God world, you're going to have to tell me what is ultimate that's not God as a defeater, or that nothing is ultimate, thereby excluding God because God is defined as ultimate. Which of those two are you relying on?
Great, thank you for the refresher. I've got my third option. Instead, I can just show that I can look at things around me and I don't need to refer to any ultimates. I can look at things and describe things.
Okay,
It's not actually necessary to know the ultimate history of the universe to describe things around you.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. Is you are now invoking brute facts.
I don't know if there's brute facts. Sorry, go on.
Carefully. We're going to go over this again. Facts will either be reckoned to be creaturely or not. If they are not reckoned to be creaturely, then the facts in question will either have no ultimate identifiable reason as to why they exist, and if not, then you're going to have to tell me why ultimately anything is. Now, for your facts that are categorized as not creaturely, okay, do they have an ultimate reason as to why it is?
Not as far as I know, but I don't think I have to solve the ultimate mysteries of the Big Bang in order to believe in things around me.
Now you have stated that you are invoking an array of facts that are said to exist without an identification of ultimately why they exist. That is what we call in philosophy a brute fact.
No, it's an it's an unknown.
Sir, listen to me. That's what a brute fact is.
Oh, so everything you don't know is a brute fact. Everything you don't know the explanation of is a brute fact. Okay, sorry. Then I've misunderstood.
Okay, you know what? I've had enough of you. You're gone. Okay. Not going to go around the circle of him constantly being impulsive, interrupting. Okay, and I methodically went through them. Okay, you can attempt to evade the brute factness of your facts by telling me what it is that ultimately institutes and secures what anything is, can be, or cannot be. If you say, the moment you say, well, I don't know singularly what ultimately dictates every instance of what is, or can be, or cannot be, well, then you are joining the category of brute facts, that there's an array of facts out there that don't have anything identifiable and defensible as to why it exists, either externally to itself or internally. This is brute facts. And for some reason, he's just being argumentative about the classification of bruteness. There's nothing controversial about in this conversation about it being brute. The problem comes then once they acknowledge that he's invoking brute facts, is that they can no longer be invoked as meaningful and intelligible because there's nothing that dictates what it is whatsoever. It doesn't matter that they think that it has intelligibility. The intelligibility and meaning of something will be in virtue of its nature of being, not by virtue of what you and I think, because we're not God. We're not the one who institutes the nature of being for things that are not himself. So he's invoking an array of brute facts, and he's claiming, I can speak meaningfully and intelligibly about my world. Yes, semantically you can, but not metaphysically, because there's nothing that is identifiable or defensible that dictates what anything is.
You can tell he's scared to death about the implications of his position because he was always getting defensive and preemptive.
And people say I'm not patient. Look, you know, I put up with John M., right? I put up with him. That shows I'm patient. Yeah, you're not coming up again, Happy. You know, you gotta let me know. Go to your local emergency room and let them check your caffeine levels. And when your caffeine levels are down low, then we'll talk again.
Yeah, dude, slow down. Stop being impulsive. Listen. For crying out loud, man.
Look, what they don't want to do is go through a discursive process. Because then when we go step by step methodically through their position, the bankruptcy of their position is revealed, and they don't want to do that. So what do? They resort to the bickering mode. Bicker, 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 bicker.
Exactly. Pretty much.
All right, I'm going to take a break from jabbering. So if anyone else wants to come up and talk with the panel, you're free to come up. I'm just going to sit and listen for a while.
Yeah, it gets really painful.
Hey, John, come on up. Are you being sarcastic or are you being sincere, John? Come on up, John. Or are you just being a troll keyboard warrior? Come on up.
But I'm saying I could grant you that the view is necessarily true, and you could give independent corroboration.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I just understand you to say
in there.
Yeah, I just understand you to say that by independent, I thought you meant like independent of like a revelational view.
No.
All you're saying is Christianity could account for this, given Christianity, but I could be convincing by just like taking like quote unquote neutral like axioms and stuff and like try to give you some kind of proof of this. And maybe the way I would do it is like give a reductio of the tabula rasa view and of all knowledge being synthetic. That's probably how I would do it if I was going to do it, like perform that. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Is that like a fair recap though? Like everything I just spewed out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. It just
okay. Do you think man is born? Do you think man is born with no innate ideas?
No innate ideas? No.
And repeat what he said in the text. So I got to give him credit there. But where I don't give him credit for, and he earns a block from me, is he's outright lying. I was absolutely, undoubtedly being patient with Happy. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar. And that was an outright lie. Okay? Look, if you say something I disagree with, fine. But if it's clear to me it's an outright lie, welcome to my block list. Because you're a waste of time to talk to. If you're going to resort to lies like that, even Happy admitted repeatedly how patient I was being with them.
It really fascinates me how somebody can agree that there's the God world and the not God world as a dichotomy, but then, okay, ultimate versus not ultimate necessity can somehow be like, no, there's a third option. Like, what? What is the third? Like, how could you have a third option if you've already established that there either is an ultimate or either is a God or not God world, and God is ultimate by definition? So how do you come up with these third options? This truly fascinates me how people keep doing this and like cannot seem to grasp the contradiction.
I think what we need to do is we need to see, how many of these people may have eaten leaded paint chips when they were children. Because
I really think, I really think that because there's the ad nauseum accusations of script. I think you should create a little diagram of like the initial thread and then be like, okay, we're visually looking at this. Click the freaking link and now look at the freaking picture. All right. Have we gone down and established, like, followed a thread, of God world, not God world? Which one do you choose? Okay, you're in not God world. Okay, now what is ultimate? Just have an arc, a tree going down, because this stuff is just, I don't understand how either requires the memory of a gerbil or the willful refusal to actually use your brain. And like the guy you were talking to, he didn't sound dumb. So it's like it's like they have a mental block. It's truly fascinating.
Well, maybe he was high. Who knows?
No one talks that fast while they're high.
I don't see any difference in what these people say when it boils down to is they're just saying it is what it is. It is the thing. They're just saying the thing. That's all I hear.
Were you here earlier, John? Maybe you weren't, but we caught one of Jank Angstreich's little acolytes who considers himself, an up-and-coming philosophical genius, caught him outright lying about engaging in stalking. But if you weren't here for that, you can check it out on the replays, because that was funny. That was really funny. I have to admit, it was very amusing.
No, I definitely I missed out on that. What was the? Yeah. He was just he's just being a troll.
It was Darth Arianis that he goes by. He changed his avatar before he came up, and then when I asked him why he changed his avatar, he lied about it. Then he lied about participating in stalking against me. And then when I asked him a further question of an actual instance of stalking that he actually participated in, right? He no longer could, deny the obvious. And that he was just lying about, facilitating stalking. Total embarrassment. These people that try to put themselves forward as, philosophically adroit. It's just laughable. Then they start lying about stalking. It was funny. You have to see it. It was quite.
I'll have to check it back out. Yeah, the stalking and then the denial of stalking. Like, I'm not doing this, but I am doing this. It's truly fascinating how the contradictions, and then as I joke all the time, the atheist fantasyland projection complex. It's like whatever they accuse you of doing, there's a strong probability it's exactly what they're doing.
No. Yeah. Well, it's hard to find mature-minded, intelligent unbelievers to talk to. Oh, well. All right, I'm going to get something to drink. I'll be listening.
John, what headset are you using? Your mic is booming right now.
I'm just using.
You and Ton must shop at the same mic dealer.
Is it coming through really hard or really high?
Yeah, I mean it sounds good.
It's this Bluetooth headset that I bought. I got so annoyed with.
Yeah, you could say that. What's the problem?
I don't know. Maybe all I got is an incredulous stare about all that.
Great.
That's all I got, dude.
What is this discussion?
Gio, when you asked that, were you going somewhere? Like,
I can't get over the fact that like somebody would admit that kind of stuff. Like, yeah. I guess the point that I'd say, and not like, okay, I'll take him seriously because he said he was serious. Like, if everybody has necessary innate ideas, and their knowledge and their propositional, and they have content, presumably like synthetic content, like I think the understanding of what marriage is, what a bachelor is, ultimately is like synthetic. If somebody has knowledge of that, then you must be, number one, like an infallibilist, right? Because if it's necessarily true, you couldn't be wrong about your concept of what marriage is, a bachelor was, and stuff like this. And then you just have all of these in virtue of having a mind, like just being born. And then if you're not a theist, presumably you're like a naturalist, presumably. So now you're going to have to give some kind of account how like an evolutionary story could have done that for you. It's like, crazy. This is cuckoo.
So you think that you couldn't?
Great. Like, so what?
I mean, that's all I got, dude.
Okay.
This is insane. Okay, here's how I'd show the contradiction, I guess. Can you explain? Okay, so does unguided natural evolution necessarily produce that you would have necessarily true innate conceptual ideas about marriage and bachelors and stuff?
Does it necessarily produce that?
Yeah. The process of unguided evolution, does it necessarily produce all that stuff?
No.
Then how could you... Okay, so it's possible it could produce innate ideas that are just mistaken.
How does that follow, right? Like the dichotomy is either it necessarily produces those innate conceptual truths, or it's not necessary, right? I'm just saying that it could be the case contingently that those truths are produced and they're truth tracking.
How could you have necessarily innate ideas about bachelors and stuff like that by a mechanism that could possibly give you false ideas?
What?
Man, first of all, fuck your mother.
Well, that's just a question.
Yeah, that's my question to you. How could you get necessarily...
We're going to derive a contradiction, not ask me questions.
Well, I mean, we asked each other some questions.
Well, yeah.
I think the question in my mind is just going to highlight the contradiction. I mean, if you're not a question answerer, I mean, that's okay.
Window, you believe in evolutionary biology, like as naturalists teach it, right?
Sure.
I don't. I'm an agnostic who would say the same, and
I'd like to hear an answer to the question though. Before, I know I'm not a mod.
I'm just gonna say I don't think there's any like scientific proof or like any scientific evidential claim you could make for this bachelor's example. Like we don't We don't know that genetics can encode like conceptual information like that. That's an interesting, weird claim.
Well, no, I'll be charitable. Like, I'm taking Windows seriously and all this stuff. I truly am. So, like, here's the question: you believe that man has necessary innate ideas, necessarily true innate ideas, but that those ideas are ultimately produced by a mechanism that could give you false ideas.
That could give you false ideas?
Yeah, because you said evolution doesn't necessarily produce necessarily true. Yeah, it could give you false ideas, right?
I'm not understanding.
Here's the question again, then. Here's the question again. I'll tell you clearly. Is it the case that unguided natural evolution could produce false ideas in somebody, false innate ideas in somebody? Earlier, you said yes, by the way.
Are you saying that it's not the case in all possible worlds that it would produce necessarily true ideas?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's consistent with me saying that in the actual world, it always produces necessarily true beliefs.
Okay, well then you're going to have to explain what necessary is doing there, because now you're just changing the modal scope, right?
Wait, but why? But why? I thought you. But why would I have to explain that? I thought that you were going to provide a contradiction.
Yeah,
now
the
contradiction. Well, now that no contradiction on your part was provided, now you want me to explain that?
Well, no, I mean, conversations last a little bit of time sometimes. Like, okay, this is what's happening here, I think. So even though it is your position that it's possible that the mechanism in which gave you the innate ideas could have given you false ideas, you know somehow that it didn't in the actual world, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how do you know that it didn't?
How did I know that it didn't? Well, because those natural things don't have the disposition to generate me with false beliefs.
But it's consistent it's possible that it could.
So what?
So you can't just say that it didn't.
So it's actually the case. It's actually the case that those natural things have the disposition to always produce me with true belief. What's the problem?
The problem with that is not a necessary truth, right? That's a contingent.
Yeah.
So are contingent truths believed by inference?
No. See, now this is the confusion, right? The confusion is that it's a contingent truth that those things are produced by those natural things, right? It's a necessary truth that I know those things. Those are two different things. My knowledge of it is necessary. How those things are produced is going to be contingent.
I think they may both be contingent because it's not necessarily like there's no guarantee that you'd have like somebody. So in the possible world where somebody was just misguided by the natural forces, how would they couldn't show that? They would just be saying like everything you're saying is just consistent with that. Everything you're saying is just consistent with somebody who is misguided.
Yeah, but so look.
How do you know you're not that person?
Just because you could, this just sounds like Godless girl level drivel, right? It could be the case. It could be the case that I'm misguided by like those natural processes. But I'm just saying that given this account, I could reliably infer that given the dispositions of those natural things, I would always necessarily know those conceptual truths.
I think no, because you can't say that if you say it's also possible that the evolutionary process couldn't guarantee that you would have necessarily true innate ideas. I think that's just straightforwardly contradictory.
Okay, so what's the conjunction of the two inconsistent propositions?
The conjunction is this. I could have been misguided by the evolutionary process that would give me false ideas. I have necessarily true ideas that were guided by the evolutionary process.
What? No, I'm asking you how that's entailed, right? Like, obviously, any person create or fabricate whatever conjunction of P and not P they want. I'm asking how that's entailed.
That's the best I got. Look, that's the best I got. That's it. That's the best you're gonna get, I think. I gotta get back to it. But look, I'm not gonna charge you for being dishonest or anything like that. I'm gonna believe that that's your view, and maybe I'll think about how to more directly interact with that. But yeah, and the final end is I hate you. I hope that you have a terrible life, dude. And yeah, that's like how I'm gonna leave it. So anyway, nice talking with you.
I don't understand this nonsense about innate ideas, like coming from a naturalist. What is this?
Well, if it's, I mean, the fact that you're conceptually impoverished doesn't show like how my view is false. So like,
I don't know if you're strictly discussing this like philosophically, but this is just not backed biologically.
He's always discussing it strictly philosophically.
That's sometimes I hate philosophers for this. Like, you can't discuss biology with confidence as a philosopher, right? Like, you can't do that. You don't have biological knowledge.
You know, there's a philosophy of biology. If you didn't know that,
so dumb.
How is it dumb?
Somebody says
you're dodging my point here, which is there are biological facts, biological context, knowledge in that domain, and that doesn't have a full set intersection.
I wonder how you're gonna figure out what knowledge and facts are in those domains without some meta field. What does it mean for there to be a fact in biology?
God.
Yeah, once you do that, then you're doing philosophy, meta studies, which is just what philosophy of biology or philosophy of science is. You can't do biology without doing some philosophy of biology.
Sure, but a lot of biology is just biology.
Well, a lot of biology is like poorly done because there's a lack of philosophy being done in the background. But I'm really interested in this,
understanding like modern speciation is because of like a conceptual impoverishment about like analytic synthetic truths, right? That makes sense.
Well, what does it mean to understand, though?
Sure, we can go down this route. But there is like when you're discussing something as concrete as innate ideas, there's neurological research on this. There's psychiatric research.